Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to get started right at the top of the hour, so please stay tuned. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. If you could let me know if you could hear me, just send me a quick chat. That would be great. Down in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. All right. Thanks, Sean. We're going to get started right at the top of the hour, so please stay tuned. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to get started in 1 minute. I think we're ready to get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Proactive Maintenance, Creating Transparency Through Systems Integration. My name is Victoria, and I'm your Customer Marketing Manager here at UpKeep. Before we get started, I'd love to remind you all that if you have a question during the presentation, and we'll take them at the end, but if you have a question that pops into your head, please put it at the bottom in the Q&A section found at the bottom of your screen. That would be really helpful. So. We're ready to get started with some introductions. Chi Fang is the manager of technology at Certarus, where he leads the architecture and implementation of the company's integrated technology platform, as well as business intelligence and process improvement initiatives. When Chi isn't working, he likes to spend time outdoors skiing, hiking, and mountaineering. So welcome, Chi. And Kyle Dunbar is the fleet maintenance manager here at Certarus, where Kyle oversees the maintenance program, including prioritizing work orders, training of upkeep, and tracking of maintenance items. And when Kyle isn't working, he enjoys spending time with his family and hitting a few golf balls. So very nice. And lastly, we're super happy to have a Samsara product specialist on board the presentation today, Blake McMillan. He's joining us today as well. So let's get started. First off, I'm dying to know, and I'm sure everyone else is, who is Certarus? What do you guys do? Can you tell us a little bit about what you do every day, Chi?
Yeah, thanks, Victoria. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and kind of share our story with you guys. So Certarus, in our first slide there, Certarus is the leading North American provider of bulk compressed natural gas. So effectively, we compress gas, we truck that to a customer site, and we decompress that on location into a usable form for our customers. We're typically replacing more carbon intensive fuels like propane, diesel, and fuel oil. And depending on what we're replacing, we can reduce the customer's carbon emissions by 20 to 30%. And we can often do so at a significant cost savings to our customers as well. We also have a very reliable logistics operation that delivers CNG safely and on time. We have a pretty significant footprint with permanent hubs all over the USA and Canada, but we can deliver gas pretty much anywhere, even on the areas where you don't see a blip on the map. The next slide just kind of demonstrates just the variety of customers that we service. Really, any industrial customer that's located somewhere remote and it's difficult to get fuel to. We do power generation work. We support industries like asphalt, paving, and mining operations. We support oil and gas rigs. We do a lot of utilities work, whether it's we're the backup fuel source for utility, or in the event of an outage, let's say it's the dead of winter, utilities go out, we can kind of step in and provide heat to those homes. So a lot of different applications there. We're even doing renewable natural gas, which is capturing and transporting natural gas from agriculture. And what enables us to really service all of our customers is our large fleet. So we have a fleet of 900 plus trailers and 200 plus trucks. And really that's our unique challenge from a maintenance perspective. All of our assets in UpKeep are mobile, so they're constantly moving around and subject to the wear and tear of these types of harsh environments that we operate in. So that's just a quick summary on Certarus and our UpKeep use case.
Thanks, Chi. I'm sure that folks in the Northeast are especially happy to see you when they don't have heat in the wintertime. They see your truck pull up, they must be like, thank you. I'd also like to talk about why you chose UpKeep. If you could maybe take me through that. Kyle, I think you might be on mute.
Yeah, here I am. Yeah, so the main reason we went through UpKeep is ease of use. It is a very powerful program. You can access anything you need, but with having people across North America, it was the ease of use that really set UpKeep apart from other CMMS programs that we trialed. I'd like to share a quick little story on when we were trying to pick a CMMS program. We had it narrowed down to two. There was UpKeep and one others, and we were all in a boardroom, and one of the gentlemen in the boardroom put a pen down on the desk, and he says, all right, I'll use UpKeep, you use the other program, and let's see who can create and close a work order out first. And by the time he had created and closed out a work order, I was maybe a third of the way done creating a work order, and that really spoke to us that UpKeep was the right choice.
What a great story. The idea of us being mobile first. Yeah, we're definitely the quickest as far as creating work orders. So thank you for that. That's fascinating. And now I'd like to talk about the Samsara integration. But first, Blake, would you mind taking us through kind of what Samsara does and what you're all about?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Victoria, and thanks, Kyle and Chi, for letting me sit in on today's webinar. So hey, everyone, just wanted to quickly introduce myself again. My name is Blake McMillan. I'm a product specialist over here at Samsara. And what Samsara is, we are essentially an internet-connected sensors company servicing both the fleet as well as industrial applications. So Certarus is using us. They have us deployed throughout those assets. I think it was 900 assets and 200 plus vehicles. We're doing everything from providing real-time up to the second GPS locations, pulling diagnostics, through our devices, and even sending a lot of this information over to UpKeep, which will be discussed a little bit later. But as you can see on the slide here, we also offer internet connected dash cameras, the gateways, which I had briefly mentioned. We have a mobile app where DVIRs or driver vehicle inspection reports can be filed. And then we have various other sensors as well. And what's really nice about our dashboard is just the consolidated approach. So we have various types of sensors, all manufactured by us. And then it can various different data points can be managed through our dashboard or sent to other systems like UpKeep, for example. So yeah, just a little bit on us.
Thanks, Blake. Appreciate that. Chi, maybe you could take us through the actual integration with UpKeep and Samsara.
Yeah, I'll let Kyle actually start this off.
Yeah, so with a mobile fleet across North America, it was very difficult for us to be able to know where a piece of equipment was and have the work orders associated for that piece of equipment go to the right location. So before we had this integration, we were doing a manual process where we were looking at our GPS system and updating UpKeep for the location of every piece of equipment and all the work orders accordingly. And it took 2-3 days a week of going through all of that. After we got the integrations done, we get real-time data. It updates locations, which then allows the regions to know what they need to be working on and prioritizing.
Yeah, and I'll just give a little insight around how that works. So effectively, Samsara is our source of truth for geolocation. We have those gateways that Blake mentioned installed on all our trucks and trailers. We set up basically geofences in the Samsara system, and we actually mirrored those to facility locations in UpKeep. Also, really our entire list of vehicles and trailers appear in both UpKeep and Samsara using the same identifiers. So we basically wrote a program that says, if an asset changes from one geofence to another, you're finding that asset in UpKeep and you're changing the facility location accordingly. And basically that is updating every few minutes. So you kind of have semi-real-time data in terms of where your equipment is moving. And the other Samsara integration we actually have is we were able to extract the odometer readings from our trucks and actually feed that into UpKeep and auto-generate work orders off of them. So let's say every 5, 10, 20,000 miles, you create a work order. And that's really was a much more efficient way of doing preventative maintenance as opposed to a time-based program where you're saying, oh, let's maintain this truck every quarter or every 6 months, regardless of how far it drove. So it's definitely more intelligent and more efficient that way. When it comes to deployment, these are actually fairly quick to deploy. I believe the location integration took probably 3 weeks from initial scoping to deployment. And the two integrations together only cost us maybe a little over 10 grand. So relatively cost effective and quick to deploy.
Very impressive, Chi, and I can imagine that saved you a ton of time. Also wanted to talk to you a little bit about some other integrations that you have with UpKeep, if you wouldn't mind taking us through those.
Yeah, sure. We're really leveraging the data we have in UpKeep, and one of the initiatives is that we've extracted all of the data from UpKeep via the API, and we've put it into Microsoft Power BI, which is our reporting solution that we use company-wide for various reports. And what we ended up with is an interactive dashboard that Kyle had designed, and it really provides us with this overarching view of our fleet, and we can kind of see, what proportion of our fleet is out of service, what proportion is currently being worked on and under maintenance, and what's actually available to be deployed for work. And with that dashboard, you can actually click into specific regions, you know, let's look at Texas or Wyoming, for example. And you can even click into the specific pieces of equipment to get more information without having to actually switch back to UpKeep. And it's hugely beneficial for our operations and logistics teams because, you know, they're making day-to-day decisions based on what equipment is available. But overall, I think it also gives a good view of fleet health and how our maintenance program is tracking. And I know that's a tool that Kyle uses every single day. The second integration I wanted to touch on is our SCADA system. So Samsara, by the way, has a great SCADA system as well. But SCADA for us monitors about 200 data points from each piece of equipment. And what we can do now is create work orders off of those data points. So something really simple would be like the runtime hours on a particular equipment, like one of our gas compressors, for example. Once the hours hit a certain threshold, then you create a work order, automatically create a work order for maintenance. So it's similar to the idea of odometers for trucks. But we can really get deeper there where we can actually almost use formulas where you can say, hey, if this data point, let's say that's pressure is spiking, and at the same time, this other data point, let's say that temperature is dropping, maybe that is indicative of a fault or a problem with a specific part. You know, let's say it's a valve or a boiler. So if you can kind of codify that and define that, then we can trigger work orders for that specific part. So, which really saves a lot of time for a technician to go and have to diagnose, you know, what the problem really is. So that's something that's kind of on the horizon for us, but we're really excited about the potential that holds.
Gee, amazing. Your system is so sharp and efficient. It's quite incredible. I know that, you know, everything that you do, we talk about business impact and results. If you wouldn't mind sharing some results you've seen since you've made these integrations, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit on that. Now that we get some real-time data, we're able to hold our people more accountable on having all of the work orders that are needed in their area completed on time and efficiently, and that has saved so much time trying to figure out where equipment is, and it's been a huge benefit. And our guys know that, you know, we are watching, and they seem to really like having that accountability and knowing where they are at any given time. Second one is our safety and operational efficiencies. Chi touched on this a little bit earlier, but having our dispatch team be fully aware of what's out of service, what's being worked on, has really driven some great results for our company.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just talk about the cost impact, which really kind of ties into all of the other things that Kyle talked about, where, you know, we can allocate our resources more efficiently in terms of getting to work orders faster, not wasting time figuring out where a piece of equipment is, avoiding unnecessary maintenance for equipment that doesn't need maintenance, so we're saving money on labor costs there. We're saving money on parts. Just even having our fleet, you know, available and on the road, so increasing the utilization of our equipment has a big impact. So all of those things kind of trickles down to dollars and cents at the end of the day, right? You know, we kind of looked at this and the couple of integrations we built, and we think that we're going to save about $500K a year off those integrations. So that's like a 50x per year return on investment, which is really ridiculous by any means. And I think that those cost savings will only continue to grow as the size of our fleet grows. So we're already seeing huge impacts there.
50x, 500K, incredibly impressive. And what was that initial investment to create the integration with Samsara?
It was a little over 10K.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was hoping that you, I mean, and you coming on here and sharing your best practices is so valuable to our customer base, and we're so appreciative. I'm wondering if you could just maybe give some advice to those that might be looking to do something like this.
Yeah, I guess so. So the first item is I have there is use the best tool for the job, right? And what happens nowadays is that sometimes you get technology solutions where they come to you and say, hey, like, we've got all these features kind of just wrapped up in a bow. You know, we have a maintenance component, fleet tracking components, and they're kind of mediocre in them of themselves, but they're integrated. So you kind of look at it and say, well, maybe I'll put up with it because then I don't have to worry about maintaining two separate systems, right? But really, as a matter of philosophy, at Certarus, we've kind of taken the opposite approach, where it's, let's just pick the best tool for the job, period, right? Like, we think UpKeep is the best CMMS out there. We think Samsara is the best fleet tracking system and driver safety system out there. So let's use them and take advantage of all their merits and simply build the bridge that connects them. And I think in the modern age of high quality SaaS solutions and API integrations, that's just become easier than ever. So that would be kind of my first point of advice. The second one, I would say, yeah, you listen to your users. At the end of the day, like, you're trying to solve pain points, and you really have to spend a lot of time scoping, understanding the problem. Like one of the integrations we're looking at with Samsara now is that all of our drivers have to do vehicle inspections at the beginning and end of every trip, and they do that in Samsara. But if they find a fault and they're doing one of these inspections and say, oh, look, there's a tail light that went out, they have to then go into UpKeep, find that vehicle, and then create a work order. And it's that extra step that's often forgotten. And it's easy to say, hey, why don't you just make sure they do it? But at the end of the day, our people in the field have a really tough job. They got hundreds of things to remember. And it's all about reducing the friction and sort of the swivel chairing that's required for our users. So that's an example of where we're just kind of listening to the pain points there and trying to address them. And I guess the last thing is choosing an integration partner. So when you build these integrations, you could either choose to build it in-house if you have the expertise, or you can go with an external partner. For the Samsara integrations we built, we used a third-party firm called SwingDev. And the reason why we chose them is that they were already quite familiar with Samsara's API, and they got up to speed on UpKeep's API very quickly. So we felt that they could deliver this project like very quickly and on budget, which proved to be the case, and we were quite satisfied there.
Fantastic, Chi. Thank you so much. Really great advice for all those out there looking to integrate UpKeep with other solutions. I mean, it seems like everything that you're doing is on target. You guys are absolutely amazing. You're saving tons of money. But your future, can you make any other improvements, do you think, or?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. To get into best-in-class maintenance, there's a few things that you need to look at. You don't want to over-maintain something. You don't want to under-maintain something. You want to find that perfect balance, and that's through doing what she was talking about, listening to your users, going back at closed work orders, seeing if something's failed, if you can increase or decrease intervals, having things like integrations with odometers to better utilize your time on maintenance. I mean, you don't want to have a vehicle that's only traveling 100 miles have to get maintained every 3 months, whereas if it's traveling 5,000 miles in that 3 months, you may need to have it looked at 2 or 3 times. So we're always constantly looking at ways to improve, looking at those pain points, and it's all about continuous improvement.
Yeah, Kyle touched on a good point, right? Because this really is continuous improvement, and I think best in class is not like an end state, and it just continues to evolve. Like he and I just like we just have a laundry list of ideas that we're constantly kicking around, and our business will change over time, and our technology will have to adapt. And at the same time, the technology itself may change. Like Upkeep may roll out a new feature, and then that could open up a whole new world for us. So at the end of the day, I think it's about building a habit and kind of a recurring process that you can just continue to sustain pretty much indefinitely.
Fantastic. Thank you all for this fantastic presentation. So interesting, and we have a lot of questions. So strap in. We've got 8 minutes to get through them all. I guess number one, do you use the API for integration, or do you use a service broker for live data integration?
We basically build API to API integrations. So effectively how it works is that we have the code deployed on our Microsoft Azure environment, and I believe it's currently deployed on Azure Functions, which is kind of serverless code execution. So at the end of the day, you're trying to create a script that is tying the two APIs together. So you need to have that sort of intermediate layer in which to house that code and logic. And for us to host that ourselves was really just like an internal decision, and because we want full control of our code and our data. But if you're working with a firm like SwingDev, for example, they can often host that for you as well. So that if you don't have the expertise or you don't want to bother, you can be fairly hands-off there.
Oh, thank you, Chi. And also to let you know, SwingDev is an official partner. We just made them official partner of UpKeep. So thank you for bringing them up again. I wanted to remind everyone of that. Second question, does Power BI connect directly to the API or via data warehouse?
Yeah, I think there's different ways of doing it. I would say that if the report that you're producing in Power BI requires data from multiple sources, like if Upkeep is just one source, but you're pulling information from your other systems, then it would make sense to kind of aggregate that maybe in a data warehouse first, especially if you're running a lot of logic around all those different data sources. But we have actually plugged the Upkeep data directly into Power BI in the integration that we built, because that's more of like an exclusive sort of maintenance focused Power BI dashboard, and we just simply pull that in and the analytics in the Power BI model itself.
Thanks, Chi. Follow-up question, was the Power BI integration something you did in-house, or did you use an external provider for that as well?
It's a combination. So we do have an external Power BI consulting firm that works with us, but we also have internal resources there. So it was a collaborative effort.
Great, thank you. What method do you use for surfacing data from SCADA to UpKeep? We have the fault rules algorithms in place already.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. What method do you use for surfacing data from SCADA to UpKeep?
Oh, okay. Well, once again, it's we are having to build like an intermediate a layer of code there, right? So depending on how you extract data from your SCADA system, like SCADA systems are all like very, very different. In this case, we work with our SCADA vendor to basically identify the data points we need, and they effectively kind of extracted that data into, once again, Azure. And then we were able to utilize the UpKeep API to, effectively, the logic will then push that data into UpKeep. So it's a tough question just because SCADA systems are very different. For example, I know that Samsara's SCADA system has an open API as well. So in that case, you could then just extract data straight out of the Samsara API as opposed to you know, doing a bunch of custom work there with that extraction.
Great, thank you, Chi. Is UpKeep used by the maintenance team or by other teams as well?
Kyle, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, we use UpKeep for everyone in the company, really. All of our field staff, the regional managers, anyone that's driving a vehicle. So yeah, it's widely used. I can't remember how many users we have, but it's a lot.
Thanks, Kyle. Do you use UpKeep to also manage spare parts / MRO inventory? How do you manage procurement?
We use UpKeep a little bit on the spare parts systems. We do have a bit of a challenge being in multiple areas. So it's something that we're currently working on and trying to improve our system for the spare parts.
Thank you, Kyle. So is the $10,000 that was mentioned for the swing dev integration effort, or is that other software?
That was the development effort, and I will caveat that there is a little bit of maintenance cost associated with that as well, because we do have that code running in Azure Functions, which basically charges you every time that code is executed, but it's fairly negligible, like maybe a few $100 a month type thing.
Great. Thanks. And then so this is a great question. This is not a customer, but welcome. Thank you for joining us today. How did you manage the purchase process for UpKeep? We are struggling to get consensus on our purchase decision, so any guidance would be helpful. Great question.
Yeah, so what we did is we came up with a list, talking with the guys out in the field. We came up with a list of what we want in a maintenance system, what prioritized or what priority everything is in. And then we went in and we trialed a good 15, 20 different programs and gave them out, some seats out to a few of the people out in the field for them to trial it. And then we kind of gathered all the feedback together and put it into our little chart that we had, tracking chart that we had. And yeah, we were able to determine from there what the top 2 or 3 systems that we felt would work best for us for the functionality and the features. And then it came down to the ease of use, which UpKeep really won. Yeah,
like at the end of the day, you almost have to look at, like what are your 5 or 10 main criteria that you're looking for, and you almost have to weight them in terms of importance, right? And that's going to be different for every organization. Like for us, we were really focused on a good user experience for our people in the field, right? Just going back to my earlier point about, these guys are in tough environments, tough conditions, they're dealing with a lot of things, and we just want to make it as smooth and as easy as possible. And that's what was the differentiator for us, because if you don't have a good user experience at the end of the day, people will, people won't adopt it, or people will try to find their own little workarounds around it. So that was paramount for us.
Thank you very much. That about does it for time. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Chi, Kyle, and Blake, thank you very much for this incredibly valuable and insightful presentation. I know that everyone really appreciates your time, and we've got people saying thank you. And I just want to say thank you, and thank you all for joining us today. I know that those that hung on to the very end, thank you. We are recording this webinar, and you'll receive a link to that recording, so I encourage you to pass that on to those that missed today's presentation. With that being said, I wish you all a fantastic weekend, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.